Tethered, Decay, and Fastened Renewal by CozyEarth. Read by Supernova Podfic. Chapter 17 Dishes. Summary. Danny thinks over life while doing the dishes. The dream always started the same. He was back in the lab, standing in the dark cavern of the off portal. He knows what's about to happen, tries to fight it, but his body doesn't listen, and he steps forward. Bright light, pain soon follow. The screams of agony transition into cries of desperation as he's transported onto the cold operating table. He's begging, pleading. He knows they don't hear, don't care. He's going to die, for real. This time is different, though. Everything is suddenly engulfed in fire and smoke, but he's not afraid. It's familiar. It's comfortable. The pain fades. Danny's eyes slowly blink open as he returns to the waking world. His bed was a lot more comfortable than he remembered, but maybe it's just that he finally didn't wake up from his nightmare. This was honestly the best sleep he's had in weeks. His body ached with his still healing core, and his head was pounding. But he felt rested. Danny snuggled more into the pillow with a sigh, inhaling the scent of cinnamon and gunpowder. He let out a low growl. He still had that damn hoodie. Sitting up a little, Danny mumbled out to his empty apartment. Ugh, anyone get the number of the bus that hit me? He never was a morning person. It always took his brain a second to catch up. He blinked some more. Why was his apartment so warm? Morning, Sleeping Beauty. The deep voice startled Danny to full attention as he let out a squawk and fell to the floor. The low chuckling from above sobered Danny right up. Though his memories are still foggy, his brain piercing the broken glimpses together. He had been with Jason. Something happened. He bit someone. He's at Jason's place. He's still covered in blood. Danny scrambled to right himself, sputtering out failed attempts to defend himself, ears pink, iced in embarrassment. Danny gave the room a quick scan and froze. Dick was here, too. The older brother just gave a soft smile as Jason shook his head. Get over here, Angel. Fear gas can be a rough come down, and I make a mean hangover cure. Jason spoke with such warmth that Danny almost forgot Dick was there. That threw Danny for a moment. Did Jason realize what he said? Does it mean anything to Dick? How much did Dick know? It was enough to irritate Danny's headache. Danny mumbled some swears as he did what he was told, though slowly, still a little annoyed at his bondmate. He wrapped himself up with the blanket he was using and plopped down on the bar stool, glaring at Jason's bag. He needed to be ready. Any sign of trouble, and he'd be gone. His core was buzzing on high alert. His face only softened a little when Dick handed him a mug of something warm. Danny slipped it slowly, never taking his eyes off the broad shoulders in front of him. He was focused, waiting, watching. It wasn't until he felt a warm feeling of comfort through the bond from Jason's not core that Danny relaxed. Jason shot him a reassuring smile over his shoulder as he cooked. That's when it clicked for Danny. He was safe with these people, Jason's family. He needed to trust Jason. Dick finally got him to open up a little more. Easy small talk and puns. Danny let himself get distracted and calm down. Soon after, the food was ready before Danny knew it. Danny inhaled everything Jason put in front of him. It was the best food Danny had ever eaten in his whole life. Not even the overpriced shit Vlad used to get was anywhere close to this. Danny was so busy eating that he almost missed Dick excusing himself to make a few calls. Danny was in his own world when he ate, headache slowly fading. He needed this cooking in his life every day. He just needed a reason good enough to convince Jason. Danny plodded away as he finished the rest of his food, looking over at his bondmate across the table. Contentment rolled off of Jason in waves as the two sat in silence. Danny's core felt comfort in the soothing warmth, purring and chirping as he finished what was in front of him. A small part of Danny worried about what Jason thought about the odd noises coming from him. Jazz never could hear his core, nor could his friends, so it was hard to gauge how non-ghost slash Halfaz felt about it. But the crime boss remained silent as he ate his own meal. His knot core did vibrate a little back, so Danny took it as a win. When they both finished, Jason took their dishes to the sink and began to wash them. Danny, not wanting to be rude, got up and began to dry. As he took his place next to Jason, the larger man lightly bumped their shoulders together, once again sending Danny a gentle smile. Danny let his core expand and wrap around Jason. His core and Jason's knot core synced in rhythm as they worked. It was nice. The repetitive motions took Danny's mind out of the spiral it was beginning to unravel into. All the new things he had to worry about. Their relationship was weird. Jason was his boss. Danny, technically, was his king. They were basically strangers. They were bondmates. They were both keeping secrets. Danny was basically putting his life and his freedom in Jason's hands. Jason trusted Danny with his identity. It was a headache. Jason was the cause. Jason was the cure. Dishes were easier. Danny needed the distraction. Jason was the one to break the silence. So, Jason started as he cleared his throat, a little nervous. If you're feeling up to it, and only if you're up to it, the boys wanted to move movie night over here. Danny hummed an acknowledgement as he thought of the words. I guess. I mean, I'm doing all right, all things considered, Danny admitted after a moment with a shrug. I've gone to school missing a bone or two before, so a movie night after what was basically a bad high is nothing. He froze after the words left his mouth. Damn it, he didn't mean to say that. Jason just had a way of removing his brain-to-mouth filter. Jason froze too. The older man's eyes glowed green for a moment, sharp and on fire, the room filled with his knot core's overwhelming rage. Danny held his breath. This rage. He'd never felt something so raw and twisted. It brought a strange feeling forward for Danny through the bond. It was crushing him inside out. He didn't know its name. Then Jason blinked a few times, and the glowing and rage disappeared like it was never there. A new emotion took over. Jason choked on his words before fighting through it. I want you to know you're safe here, no matter what. I don't care if you have a damn cold, if you're not feeling up to anything, then you don't have to do a damn fucking thing. Got it? There was still some anger in his eyes, but it was drowned out in all the worry it was swimming in. The sight broke Danny a little. Yeah, okay, big guy. I'll take it easy if I need to, Danny spoke softly. He almost couldn't hear himself over his heartbeat. But you gotta take it easy too, okay? Jason just gave a curt nod. It was a start. Chapter 18. Calm. Summary. Jason isn't used to being calm. Calm was a stranger to Jason. For years, his head had been filled with the noise of the pits, the toxic rage always boiling and buzzing under the surface, making him feel way too hot. His insides always a raging flame, burning him until there was nothing left. It had taken months of blood, tears, and yelling just to keep the inferno from burning his family as well. Dick and Bruce still held on despite the scars. And Tim, oh God, Tim. Jason had almost engulfed the boy whole. Everyone pushed through, taming the flames, but there was never peace. Sitting here, listening to Danny excitedly telling Dick about the latest satellite that's been launched into orbit, waving his arms around as he spoke, the pits quietly humming. Nothing but comfortable embers of what they once were. This must be what peace is. Jason rested his face on his hand as he watched Danny go, not taking his eyes off him for very long if he looked away. One of these rare times, his eyes met Dick's. The older boy raised his eyebrows, sending a look towards Jason that clearly read that he knew something was up. Jason just shot one back that indicated that they would talk about it later. Dick just smiled and returned his attention to Danny, who thankfully didn't notice. Sometimes Dickie was too smart for his own good, even if it was technically Jason's fault for letting the nickname slip. He'd deal with it. He wouldn't let Dick cause Danny any trouble, but having a second opinion on this Bond stuff wasn't a bad idea. Right before Jason can come up with any semblance of a game plan, Tim and Damien burst through the door. "Danny!" they yelled in unison, both wearing their own looks of concern. Eyes locked onto where the boy was, their expressions brought forth an ugly, hissing jealousy in the pits that Jason forced down. He didn't have the right to those feelings. Danny was their friend first. He was just Jason's something. It wasn't right. Danny, for his part, was frozen mid-arm swing, clearly not expecting the sudden yelling. "Hey guys!" Danny choked out. "Where's the fire?" Ben weakly chuckled out. Neither of the boys took that response well, both rushing to either side of him. "Danny, you've been compromised. It isn't wise for you to downplay such things," Damien huffed out. Leaning into Danny's, a hand found its way to his hair. Jason suppressed a growl. Damie was more relaxed when Danny did that. He didn't need to butt in. "I'm okay," Danny hummed. "Trust me, I've been worse." "But you have blood all over you," Tim spoke through strangled words. He looked frazzled, like he often did when he put off sleeping for too long. That wasn't a good sign. Timmy was very unhinged if he was too tired. Jason held his breath. He'd forgotten about the blood. Danny just looked down at his shirt like it betrayed him. "Oh, yeah, I forgot about that." Danny then seemed to realize something, smacking his hand to his face, rubbing it down his face dramatically. "This is going to be a pain to wash," he said in a groan that then tacked on a rather pained, "I just bought this." The pits rumbled in amusement, and Jason let out his breath. Danny didn't think about the blood either. Jason chuckled as he shook his head, grabbing the attention of his younger brothers. Tim turned on a dime towards him, eyes a little crazed. "And you!" "Me?" "Yes, you! What were you thinking?" "I beg your fucking pardon?" "Then beg! Fuck you! Do you not care at all? I'm the reason he got here safe. But you didn't think to check him over, get him cleaned up, a clean shirt at least? How do you not know it's not his blood? He could be dying, idiot!" Tim lectured Jason as he stormed around the safe house, hunting Danny a new shirt. Damien shifted, putting himself between Jason and Danny, eyes locked on his older brother. Dick watched them all with a neutral pose, ready for anything. Jason felt the fire of the pits rise. How dare they? Danny was his to protect. Does Tim think he can do better than him? That he might hurt Danny? Not a fucking chance. Jason saw green. All at once, a strange feeling overflooded him. Was it his or Danny's? Jason couldn't remember. Danny spoke before Jason could say anything he might regret. "Stop." His voice sounded weird. Jason's head felt fuzzy. Everyone froze. The air cold, thick with sudden silence. Danny held all their gazes. He looked both so small and so much bigger at the same time. It was haunting. It was calming. It was Danny. "It's not my blood. It's the wrong color," Danny said, then after a pause just shrugged. "It's not green." All at once, the spell was broken. Danny seemed to close into himself, hugging his arms and making himself smaller. He looked like a child that thought he was about to be scolded. Nervous energy returning through the bond. "Danny," Jason trailed off, not really knowing what to say. Tim picked up the slack with a sigh. No longer on a warpath. "Okay, it's okay. You're okay. We're okay," Tim rambled. "I'm sorry for getting wound up. I was just really worried, and Alfred cut off my coffee for the day, but that's no excuse. I overstepped. It's not your fault, Jason, either yours. But Danny, please put on this clean shirt," Tim simply asked, holding up a black t-shirt. Jason was impressed with how fast Tim calmed down. Usually it would have gotten a lot uglier, only stopping when Dick would pull them apart. Jason's own heat died on contact when Danny spoke. Jason now just felt tired. That was some power he had. "I'm sorry, too." All three of his brothers' heads snapped towards him. Jason just kept his focus on Danny. "I should have done a better job. I guess I just got stuck in my head for a while. I lost control for a second. I'm sorry. Also should have asked if you needed anything, and Timmy's right about the shirt." Jay, Dick softly let out. Jason didn't hear, eyes only on Danny. Danny gave him a gentle smile, walking past Damien to take Jason's hands. Not an ounce of fear towards him. The pits felt wrapped in a smooth, soothing cold as Danny spoke. It's okay. I'm sorry, too. I didn't mean to cause such stress. He turned to the shirt. I don't want to cause you all to fight. He turned to the rest. I don't want to cause you all to fight. The guilt was so clear and raw on his face, tears threatening to fall. I can leave if that would be best. Hey, no, Danny, look at me, Dick soothed, gently taking Danny's hands from Jason's as he kneeled down. This was not your fault. We're brothers. We butt heads. That's life. Don't you for a second think you're causing us problems. We all just care about you. You're always welcome with us. Danny just nodded, his eyes a little glazed, letting go of Dick to lean against Damien, who was back at his side. Jason couldn't feel anything from the bond, and that worried him. Dick nodded and back and stood, stretching and popping his back a little. Why don't you go change and we set up the movie? Another nod. Is pizza good? Danny blinked back into himself. Yeah, pizza's good, his voice cracked out. Jason felt his heart break a little, and by the tight smile on Dick's face, he was too. All right, Damien will be outside the bathroom if you need anything. Okay. Jason watches as his little brother guides Danny to the other room. Jason focused on sending his feelings of comfort and apologies through to Danny. He got a faint humming in return, so Danny seemed to have stabled out a little. After a beat or two of the boys leaving, Dick let out a sigh and turned to focus on Tim. Tim, how many days? It was a simple but telling question, one their brother understood clearly. Not since Jason first passed out. Tim didn't make eye contact. Tim, I know, but a lot has been happening. Tim did his best to defend. It was no use. You're sleeping tonight, but that's final. Now this is a sleepover. Hey, do I get any say in this? Jason protested. Nope, Dick sang out in a more positive tone. Now, you two set up the movie while I call in our pizza. So, with only a few grumbles, they set up the movie on Jason's TV, Danny and Damien coming back shortly after. The food arrived soon after, and they all ate in peace. The earlier fight is all but forgotten. After they finished, Danny went ahead and plopped himself down on the couch without missing a beat. Tim and Damien are on either side of Danny on the couch. Jason wanted to complain, seeing that Dick claimed the armchair as well, but he was just so tired. Jason reluctantly sits on the floor in front of Danny. It's a thriller movie that Tim picked out, but Jason isn't paying attention because shortly after they started watching, Danny started playing with Jason's hair. Danny really didn't seem to have a problem with the open affection towards others, and if no one else was going to mention it, neither was he. So it isn't until he hears the light snoring of Tim and Danny that Jason unfreezes from shock. Jason slowly leans more back into the touch, resting the back of his head on Danny's knees. The pits hum as Danny combs through Jason's hair. It's the best feeling he's ever felt, and Jason drinks it up like it's his only lifeline. Everyone else has drifted to sleep. Dick's snores now added from the armchair. Guess they were all a lot more tired than they thought. Or maybe this was all Danny. Jason was going to have to ask Danny what his powers were once he feels comfortable and won't run. For now, Jason is just eyes closed, basking in the pit's warm rumbling. Danny hums back through the bond, and Jason can just feel the smile. Jason feels relaxed. Then he hears it, a little chirp. Jason knows it's Danny. He'd been making a similar noise earlier, but Jason didn't bring any attention to it. But now, Jason's half-awake mind prompts his vocal cords to respond. He gives a lower kind of chirp back. Danny freezes, but only for a moment, before the bond is flooded with so much comfort and mixed emotions. Jason just lets the pitch match and sync, the feelings wrapped around him as he drifts off. Jason finally falls asleep.